We've talked with the retreat group about our planned migration to Dallas, and we've given them instructions that they'll share with them guidelines on how we will do that. But more important, much more important than that link is that we feel like it's a means of accelerating the completion of our task. Now, let's say for back some time ago, like in Amarillo, when we were close to you, like when we lived in St. Francis, Texas, it didn't work. We were too close. And you couldn't take it, and we couldn't take it. I mean that in the right way. But there were so many procedures being broken that every time links turned around, they were pointing them out. So that it seemed like we were just nothing but that. And there was a limit, since you all were trying to live by procedures, but there was a limit to how much correction you could take without cowering. Now, we're not going to live in St. Francis. I'm just setting the record straight. I hope I don't have to eat those words, but we do feel like you will move faster, and we would rather sacrifice maybe the peace that we might occasionally have, a type of peace, by not having to constantly nag with you. In other words, what I'm saying is we think you've grown some, and we would prefer to, even if it's a little bit less comfortable with us, we would prefer to see how quickly we can complete that. So, I hope I've said it in a way that is offensive to everybody. What? That is what offended everybody?
The thing is, when you all were in Amarillo, you were on a different level
than where you are now.
Than where you are now. The picture has totally changed for the way I see it, in the right way. In that word, you all are doing things now, and we know we are doing more than you ever had. And that is working on getting your mind into your business. We feel you're you might not be able to do it 100%, but I think the percentage of what you're doing is more than it's ever been. And you all feel that. And I think that will help you come on. And because of what I feel, and therefore, the level that you do things will be on a higher level. Where when we would see you back in Amarillo, you all were doing things on a human level, even though you thought you were doing things on an infinite
level. It was harder for you to know the difference.
Because you didn't
recognize the difference.
You see what I'm saying? But our place now isn't to see what you do wrong. We more than your place to see what is sufficient you all do. But what we do feel when we're with you is that we're concerned. Not what. In other words, if we feel like you're working on getting your mind into a meeting, when we're talking to you, we're talking to you as other members of the community, then we're happy. And as long as you can upload, if you're doing this, then we're happy. And if you're breaking procedures, we're not going to be looking for those anymore, and we want you to look for them. And when we visit in your class, if we see some of the things that are happening to you, some of the things that you are doing, like we described to you, to let us know some of the hurting, see those things happen, then of course you will tell. But we feel like the relationship will be on a higher level, and if we can vibrate from that level, all of it, then wouldn't that keep your mind into the vehicle? And so this is what we're trying to start with,
Let me try to listen, for a long period of time, you had to have all the things that you were doing wrong and procedures brought to your attention, or you wouldn't have known how to correct them. Now, but it was not a good way for Lynch to have to bring them directly to your attention. And that's when we recognized, when we separated from you in Amarillo and had you treated in another place, that the best way we could help you and the way that you could take it and apply it the best would be to have the kind of procedure helpers and all the routine that we had of 3 times breakage and all these things. Okay? And it worked. It worked. It did a tremendous job. And but now that's passed. And now that that's passed, we feel like, and we hope there are even other reasons why we feel like we need to be in closer proximity. In other words, we feel like we should be in the same area, and that it won't cause, you've grown so, and we've had such change in the way we operate, that it shouldn't cause any difficulty. It should be a positive. Where now it's just a little bit of a nagging discomfort to us at times for you to be a distance. You see that? Because we, like if we want to say something to you, we have to run a bunch of miles to say something to you. And same thing in your traveling to meet with us. It's just a little bit of wasted time. We don't feel like the therapy of the trip is any longer that valuable to you. Even though we did think that the trip for a while was the retreat and all the hours spent in the vehicle was good for you. It kind of helped you. A little bit tracing up to Colorado and then here and then there. But we don't feel like you need that now. It doesn't mean we're not going to have a retreat. We still plan to have a retreat. But it will still all be in close proximity. So we feel pleased about it, because this is more important. This is more the reason why we're migrating out than we are just saying, well, you've been an awful while, how about coming down? That's not the way it works. It's working because the piano roll is where we need to be in closer proximity to you and to move things along faster. And who knows what reason. But we're looking forward to it, and we hope that it can happen smoothly and quickly. But we know that there'll probably be some lessons along the way in the migration. And maybe even some lessons to be learned as we get there.
And as we get off the dog, we'll probably retreat someplace else. We only think we can out there next time. But we know this is what.
He and I, for this last outing we had to go on, sand blast we had to endure. We went through the area where those radios just happened that we had to take a route through the area where those radio astronomy lineup of dishes are to the heavens. You all know what we're talking about? No, it's in New Mexico. There's a place where the radio astronomers have all these dishes lined up because they're trying to detect sound frequencies from space. And as we drove along, we talked to couldn't pick up our frequency. But what we can see is how primitive their understanding of communication is. Because they think just because they have learned about radio communication, that would be how someone in space would communicate through signals that would be considered radio signals. Now, and he and I talked for a minute, said, you know, if they could only realize, of course, I'm sure that that's very careful to realize, how to tune into brainwaves, or how to tune into what frequencies transmit thoughts and ideas. In other words, then they would be more, they could have some way of perceiving what information was coming in from another level of features. You see what we're saying? Here they've got all those dishes out there, and an extravagant staff, millions of dollars spent trying to pick up some radio signals from distant space. When we know that the next level is constantly sending all kinds of information. But you know, there's a division of information. Just like in schools, there's a tech school, and there are schools for pretty much behavioral schools. And I mean, if you would divide them, and you could kind of divide them into two categories. And we know that the next level can directly send a lot of technical information to humans, and they develop cars, airplanes, space shuttles, and surgical techniques, things like that. Which, and as they misinterpret what they receive, it still slowly brings them up from evolutionary toward the next level. But behavioral information has to be transmitted in the way you're transmitted. Just like it was transmitted a couple thousand years ago, and most of the time, it's like it has to be transmitted. You had to, from your next level mind, put into human genes, into your own vehicle, the human vehicle that you're possessing, you had to put those signals of behavioral change and waves into human genes in order for them to transmit to humans. Now, do you understand that? Which is a lot different than sending down the information on how to build a wheel. Do you understand that? Well, you are receivers, and then you are transmitters, because you have to convert what you receive, but you're not receiving it from that level. You have, like we've always said, you have instruction that all of your has to come from older members. We give it to you. We help force you to draw on, to get more of your next level mind in. And as you work on behavioral changes and patterns, you translate that down to human genes on your vehicle, because it's the instrument of your putting those behavioral patterns into motion. And at that point, you transmit it. And it's the only way it can be transmitted. Well, it was funny because we could see this, so when we saw these crazy dishes sitting up there and thought, it doesn't make any sense that they're trying so to see if, isn't there somebody up there who can send us just one little signal, when all they get all day long is signals. They get them all day long, all night long. They get
their signals was putting us on this. That was their interpretation of the signals that they received. And yet they can't even interpret it correctly.
Right, and yet there'll probably be something that they will learn from even that experience. You know, eventually they'll learn something, but it won't be what they thought they put them up for.
Just pick up the signal You're supposed to.
But you know what humans would do if they learned the communication methods that happens between gene transmissions, like yours to theirs? They would start learning how to transmit. In other words, humans then would want to take their ideas and transmit them and control others. But you can see the chaos that would cause in the evolutionary process, when only the next level knows how to bring plants up in a proper way. Humans would mess up the whole process if they knew how to transmit from human to human. Do you see what we're saying?
They're already trying to, they're doing tests now, which I think is kind of kept secret, where they are trying to work on the pituitary gland to cause the pituitary gland. They feel like the pituitary gland can develop in a way that it can be used to move objects, to influence people. In other words, they think the pituitary gland is the one that causes these people to be so psychic and use telekinesis. What is it?
Telekinesis.
And the other mind things, which I don't think they'll be able to do it, but this is what they're working on now. In other words, they're trying to pick up on it in their own level. But in other words, they're working on a medicine, some kind of drug that would work on the pituitary gland and cause it to be able to do these things. But I don't think it's been very successful. In other words, it's called that.
You mean in an actual circumstance? Well, that's not as important as you're not to, because our instruction has not been given to you to do that. And you're not even effective in that way. The way you are effective is in the discipline you impose upon your own vehicle. And the restraint that it has regarding someone else. But you are not to start looking at the fact that if I do this, it will cause you to do that. You see that you get off the track.
Okay, you said that right. Okay, say it again. Well, I think I don't understand what you said. But like if I'm in a circumstance and I'm working on my response, I'm not going to respond because I want the other person to respond to me, but I'm responding because I am. Because you want to respond. And doing that, I'm really trying to think of everyday circumstances. I'm just trying to see clearly what you're saying about how what I am applying affects others.
Well, see, what you're applying is what you apply toward your own vehicle. And that automatically sends all those behavioral signals out. You throw the whole thing off if you ever zero in those behavioral tactics towards someone. Or even if you're trying to be an example in that direct way. If you're doing it for the motivation of being an example, you're not being an example. That sends out a negative signal to begin with. You see?
It sends out that kind of attitude.
And in other words, that's deceitful, that I'm being an example so that you can see me as an example.
That's not the way that...
No. That's the reason that we have told you that what that your eyes have to be on yourself, and all of your discipline has to be directed at your own vehicle. And as you conquer your own vehicle, that is the best microphone you have in sending those signals to the world. In fact, if you zeroed in on the individuals, you would not accomplish your purpose. It would even be a kind of operation that is against the rules in the next level. Plus, you would be diluting the effort that you should be doing if you were doing it right. Do you follow that? So it's very important that you brought that up, because we never think that you would ever think of directing any of this at individuals, because you don't want to direct it at individuals. It messes it up. And it's also a bit deceitful. And it's also put yourself on a bit of a pedestal. As I'd like for you to see how good my response is in this, and maybe it'll wear off on you. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's not where you're coming from. You're pleasing. You're accomplishing a task for the next level as you control the conduct of your vehicle, and that automatically puts into motion all the transmission that is needed, and in the very best way that can be done for those who can pick up on it. It's the only way it can happen. Any other way is an inappropriate way.
If you are given to somebody, like the other day, something happened to Doug. I was prepared, or we were preparing an experiment, and realized we needed something at the store. So Doug dashed over to the store. And in the process, a circumstance occurred where this fellow pulled out on a red light or something, and Doug stopped close to his car because he kind of had to, you know. And that fellow in his car got real angry at Doug. And Doug didn't have any response to it. In other words, he didn't allow that fellow's response to bother him. However, Doug felt his response. But he didn't shake his fist back at him and curse him and tell him to stop on the red lights or get out of the way or whatever it was like. This fellow was responding to him. Now, in other words, Doe didn't put out into the ether a negative business because of that circumstance. And this is what you're trying to block, any negative business from going out into the world. And as you are faced with these things, then that's when you do it. But you can't do it by just thinking about it.
No, and my first thought was, what did I do?
Right.
My first thought was, what did I do to cause him to be so provoked? My thought wasn't, you shouldn't be acting like that, and telling him what he should do. My thought was, what did I do? What caused this? What was funny was
and even Doe came back and wondered, what did I do?
Yeah, what did I do? And I tried to figure it out, and I really thought, well, maybe if I hadn't gotten so close to him, he wouldn't have thought that way. But what was funny, what he had done, he was on one side of the light, parked on the side of the street in the diagonal parking. I was waiting for the light to change. The light changed, and I pulled out crossing the street just as he pulled out of his parking space on the other side of the light. And I had no option because I was in the middle of the intersection, but to be close to him while I waited for him to move on up the street. But he felt like I was pushing him or something by being so close. I don't know what. So then he, as we went down the street a little bit ways, he stopped abruptly to try to force me to stop abruptly. As he did, the car beside me began to honk at him, and he thought it was me honking at him. And so the aggravation was building in him. And he was opening the window and waving his fist and shouting and screaming and trying to debate whether or not he was going to pull off and how he could get back at me for something if I had done nothing.
But the most important thing was Joe's response was not negative.
No.
You see, he did not send out a negative thought into the world. But if he had, or the force that was encouraged.
That's right.
You see, and this is what, anytime you're faced with a negative response, and you do not give a negative response, then you are sending out good, positive thoughts to the world. But you can't sit like we used to think and send out thoughts. Like, there are 47 of us or whatever. You remember that little thing? That doesn't work anymore. I mean, you've grown now to where you are doing something that is more constructive and more effective. That was the stage that we went through. Now you are sending out thoughts as you experience when you're working with each other in the craft, how you handle certain circumstances, and you respond in a positive way. That's sending it out.
If I had sent to him the thought, you shouldn't be doing that, what thought would he receive? But you shouldn't be doing that. I'm not sure you get that picture. If I had sent the thought, you shouldn't be doing that, he would have gotten the thought that I shouldn't be doing it.
And he could receive.
But my thought was, what am I doing wrong? Now, if he is receptive to that, his thought would have been to himself, what am I doing wrong? You see what we're saying? So that's why when my thought is always on my own conduct, that's when I do the most good for each other, for someone else. How many times have we said in the craft, if you accuse someone or you see something wrong with them, they hardly stand a chance of not being automatically defensive or having to fight off the defensiveness, because you have sent that accusing thought to them, and they have no option to do but to point the finger somewhere else. But if you honestly felt, what have I done here? What to cause this? They would immediately think, what have I done here to cause this? If they want to tune into those things. You see what I'm saying? If they want to be receptive. And it's that simple in transmission. Well, you all aren't going to get these tapes copied and get away from here.
Anytime you have a negative thought about something, this is why you should be very careful about what you allow to come into your mind. Because anytime you have a negative thought, then you're sending it out. And you're going to have to replace it with a positive eventually. So why not stop them now and let's get the positive going? Even if you have a negative, you can quickly eradicate it by making a positive out of it, by being aware of it. Do you follow that? Because as soon as you become aware of your negative, you will, before you let the negative occur, the negative response I'm talking about, then you will have developed a foresight instead of a hindsight. And whenever a negative approaches you, a negative response, you're confronted with a negative circumstance, it will happen before you respond negatively. In other words, you will recognize it before you respond, and then you can stop it. And that's what we're trying to get. That's where we're trying to get to.
Now, this fella in this car, he wasn't perceptive at all. I wasn't trying to send him
the thought.
But
he might be later.
He might be later, but I wasn't trying. Don't get the idea I was trying to send him the thought because it was genuine. I was saying to myself, what did I do to cause this? I wasn't trying to send him that thought. That destroys it. That makes it deceitful.
Well, Joe was troubled when he came back.
But I think when he pulled out, the reason he was not receptive is because he was really upset about something else, and he was preoccupied with some hostility that he was feeling. And I just happened to be handy, to be the brunt of it. You see what I'm saying? And even though, fortunately, it didn't amount to anything, but he wasn't receptive. But he might have, once he had cooled down, since that was the response I had, he might have, if he was inclined, gone off and thought, good night, I could have been all wrong.
Good thing I didn't lose my head.
Yes, it's a good thing I didn't pull my car. Who knows? Had I not thought the way I did, he might have turned around and pulled a trigger. Do you know? We don't know what would have actually happened in the circumstance. His response might have already been many times improved over